Welcome to Grey Primer, a show that's mostly about miniatures. My name is Nick, I'm your host, and in this episode I'm talking about paint. More specifically, the types of paint that give you high, medium, and low contrast all in one bottle. And even more specifically, Green Stuff World's attempt at these type of paints. Both Citadel and the Army Painter have their collaborator game down, so when something is about to launch, they flood the market with samples, people are talking about it left, right, and center. And yeah, whether the reviews end up being good or bad, at least people are talking about it. But what you don't hear people talking about are the other brands, like the likes of Scale Color's Instant Color. Sure, there's a little bit of buzz about it, but nowhere near what you would get for, speed paints or contrast. And then there's Green Stuff World, who recently released a paint range called Dipping Inks, which act, from what I can tell, just like contrast paint or speed paint or instant color. And I want to have a look at a few of those colors. Why am I looking at Green Stuff World? Why didn't I look at those others? Well, because the Green Stuff World ones come in 60ml bottles, and that makes a lot more sense to me, especially when you consider they're coming in around the same price as Scale 75 and then the Army Painter, and a couple of euro per bottle less than Citadel, which are coming in 18ml pots. I'll repeat. Green Stuff World comes in 60ml pots, 6-0. And because it appears like none of the brands I've mentioned today have my address, so nobody sends me free paints, I've got to go out and buy my own. So a 60ml bottle for €4 something makes a lot more sense to me than an 18ml bottle for €6 something. But will Green Stuff World's Dipping Inks turn out to be hot garbage? Or will they be the very best value contrast type paint available today? Let's go find out. So what did I go with? Well, I went with 3 primaries. First into frame there was the yellow, or as close as I could get to a primary yellow. It does look kind of muddy, but then with the contrast effect, wanting to get like highlights and shadows, you're going to have a mix of reds and yellows and oranges in there. I also went with the red, it's called Red Cloak Dip. Sorry, the yellow is called Misted Yellow Dip. And then the blue, which is Indigo Blue Dip. And as close as I could get to like a primary blue. I also went with a secondary in green. I just liked the way this looked on their website. It looked like it was a really good option for orc flesh. And I do a lot of orcs, so I thought, why not? And of course I can mix these together. Blue and red will give me purple. Blue and this sort of, this is quite a yellowy green. Blue and this yellowy green might even give me something close to turquoise. The red and the yellow, of course, that will give me an orange. The red and the yellowy green. Where are we? These two here. This will give me a brown. The yellow and the yellow green. These two here. This might give me a lime green. It'll be interesting to see. And then finally, the yellow and blue will give me probably a less yellowy green and more of a greeny green, if you get me. And while I didn't buy like a black or a white from Green Stuff World, I've got a bunch of those. So I could use like the Vallejo white, the Scale 75 black. Black will give me those deeper tones of each of these colors and any colors that I make when I mix. And then the white will give me like more of a pastel-y kind of tone of any of those colors too. Let's just take a pause to consider the value of these. Now these are 60ml bottles, so they are big. If you compare them to Games Workshop come in 18ml bottles. But let's talk numbers here. I'm comparing all of their home sites. Games Workshop, Green Stuff World, Army Painter, Scale 75. We're not talking discounted independent retailers, we're talking the home sites. So, let's talk Scale 75, Instant Color. They work out at $3.23 for 17ml. Army Painter, Speed Paint, $3.99 for 18ml. Citadel, Contrast, a whopping $6.30 for 18ml. And then we have Green Stuff World, Dipping Inks, $4.31 for 60ml. Yeah, and what does that mean? From that, it's obvious that Green Stuff World is better value, but let's start with the best of the rest. Scale 75 are coming in at 19 cents per mil. Then we have Army Painter. They're coming in at 22 cent per mil. And then we have the Colossus of Games Workshop of Citadel, and they are coming in at 35 cent per mil, which leaves us with Green Stuff World at just over 7 cent per mil. Those are pretty stark numbers if these paints are any way near competitive quality-wise with these other brands. Let's go see what they look like on the palette and on the miniatures. Ta-da! So let's just look at this bottle design as well. 60mm plastic bottle, not much space here to see the color of the paint, so you can't really tell how much it separates, but there's definitely a different tone between top and bottom. They are screw cap at the top, seem pretty well put together. Give them a very, very gentle squeeze the first time you use them, and make sure there's paint coming up the nozzle here, because sometimes Green Stuff World are sealed, sometimes they're not. I don't know why. If you are going to have an accident with one of these, you are going to have an accident this very first use when you give it a little squeeze and you realize, oh, it's blocked, and that just goes, and then quite a lot of the paint that was inside is now outside. So what's it like for spilling compared to contrast? Well, you can already see that this contrast paint has had an accident. When these paints have accidents, and they are a slightly taller bottle than the normal like layer paints or base paints, when they tip, it just all comes out, and then you're in a whole world of trying to get it back in, because as we've already seen, they're expensive. What happens when you tip over one of these? There might be some spillage here. Let's just see. Oh, there was! Look, there's a tiny dot just there. So, better bottle, better size, better value. Let's just see what the quality is like. Alright, they do come with shakers inside, so let's get some beads of paint out on this palette. Let's see what these look like. Now that's really nice. That is just got a lovely silky feel to it. It's got nice graduations in there. Just gonna mix up these two. Ooh, that's an interesting color. What was that? That was the blue and yellow. That's actually a really nice green. Very, very nice. These cotton buds that I'm using are paper and then just cotton, so they just biodegrade, which is lovely. So let's see what our purple is coming out like. Quite dark. Not mixing it very well. You can see some nice violets in there. And then finally we have our blue and green. Oh, that's a nice shade. Look at that. That's beautiful. Okay, now this is the one I'm probably most nervous about, the yellow. Oh, but it's nice. Look at that. It's like the yellow's just hiding in there until you start to push it. And then you see it come out, and it's a beautiful tone. Oh, I dig that. That's a great little color. And now hopefully we can see an orange coming out here a bit stronger with the red. I knew that green was going to give me problems. Oh, that's lovely. Let's check out this green and yellow mix. Oh yeah, that was the lime I was hoping for. I think I'm getting it. Then we got our pure red. Gorgeous. Red and green. Hopefully to give me a nice brown. It's a lot of sort of yellow feel in there, but I can see the browns coming through, and then into the pure green, and you can see, yeah, you can see sort of it is a, like they call it acid green, but it does have that highlight of yellow in there, but it's not unpleasant. It feels super smooth, and they seem to blend together quite well. We're off to a good start. So I'm gonna paint just gonna paint a few Space Marines here. Space Marines. So I've got 3 different Reavers. So these are gonna be my yellow, green, and blue Marines. And then I've got 2 of the tactical Marines here from, I think, Space Marine start collecting set or something, maybe. I have them done up with Blood Angels liveries, so these are going to be red, obviously. But what I will do is I'll do one in Contrast Red and one in Green Stuff World Dipping Inks Red, just to show you a direct comparison between two very similar miniatures in my favorite chapter colors. So here they are. I've got red, yellow, blue, green, and the Citadel Contrast Red. And just to let you know that I did add a little bit extra to these, just painted in the weapons, some eye lenses. I gave the weapons a bit of a null oil coat after they had their, I think this was bolt gun or something put onto them. And then I put grey and black onto the bases. I've done some flesh tones with a couple of the others here, but I didn't touch the main body color, just so you can get a feel for what these paints actually look like. This red went on a little bit thin, I thought. I needed to go over it a second time just to get it to feel like it was giving complete coverage. It almost at times felt like I was painting with the True Blood from Green Stuff World. It had that kind of consistency going on to the miniature, but ended up giving better coverage than True Blood just on its own would do. So it was fine. Let's compare that one directly to the Citadel Contrast. And Citadel Contrast does give better coverage, but I think there's less of the highlight and shading effect with the Citadel Contrast. It just felt like a base coat or something like that. So yeah, I mean, this went on easier, only needed one coat, but this gave me a better sense of highlights and shadows. So that wasn't so bad. The yellow went on, it felt like it was a much better coat, but it ends up looking very greenish. I put this onto a grey base coat, and I know that when I went on to Green Stuff World's page, it showed the effects of like putting it onto white, grey, and beige. And mine went on to grey, and it comes out sort of feeling like this. It's not the worst effect in the world if you want like a lime green, but I wonder what this would look like with a white primer. I might try that out afterwards. But on a grey primer, the finish isn't bad. It's just the wrong color, and there doesn't seem to be another alternative to this one in Green Stuff World's range. It just seems to be this one yellow. I think there's an orange and a few other things. Looking at it here, it would almost work as a khaki, so perhaps that's something worth thinking about. But as a yellow, no, not so much. Onto the blue, I thought the blue shaded beautifully. It just sat into those recesses. On these big flat plates, like on the shoulder pad here, it's a little bit blotchy, but I thought it was okay. I'm kind of happy with this finish, and certainly I would give this a few decals and maybe pick out some of these buttons and buckles and little clips and things like that on these pouches, and that would give me enough of a contrast color-wise to make this stand out. I think this is okay. I'm happy with that blue. I don't know if people who are Ultramarines players would be happy with it, because it does sit towards the indigo side of things a little bit more than it would like lowercase u ultramarine blue. But yeah, I'm happy enough with that. Into the acid green, and I love this shade. I think this is another one that works really well. I like the way the shadowing works. The highlights seem to pick out quite nicely without veering too much into like yellows or sickly kind of green tones. I think this is okay. I mean, I would be happy enough with this as a salamander color. And I should have said that the red was the only one I needed to put additional coats on. The yellow, blue, and green were just all one coat. And that was no problem at all. Painted really easily, not too gloopy or anything like that. It went on nice and smooth. And didn't seem to puddle all that much. I didn't really have much of an issue with it puddling. Really cool. Dries quite quickly as well. And in relation to the issues that some people have been having with the Army Painter speed paints, where reapplying paint on top of it reactivates the paint underneath, this doesn't do that. It dried the first coat dried quite quickly, and I was able to put a second coat in without feeling like I was moving around the first coat, anything like that. So that's the 4 colors tested, but let's just refer back to what they're called. These are Acid Green Dip, Indigo Blue Dip, Misted Yellow Dip, and Red Cloak Dip. The running theme here is that they are, you guessed it, dips. So these dipping inks, is it possible to actually dip a miniature inside here? Well, it's a really small hole, so no. Unless you've got some microscopic historical scale. But what we can do is go grab a goblin and have a little bit of fun. And here he is, and he is not the worst miniature I've ever painted. So I didn't really do anything to the green. I gave him some red eyes. I gave him some painted up his armor. I gave him color in his shorts and his like boots and stuff. But that was it. It's really not bad. I didn't even color the base here because I thought it looked like a cool sort of grassy thing for Blood Bowl. The only thing I noticed was there was a bit of a tide mark at the top of his head here, just where the paint was dripping off after he'd come out of having his bath, and that left this mark here. So I didn't want to remove that. I wanted to let you see that first, but I really don't think this is bad. So yeah, the dipping inks can be used as dipping inks. I don't know if you'd necessarily want to do that, but now you know that it can be done. So there you have it, Green Stuff World dipping inks. I know I only tested 4 colors, but as I showed at the beginning, you can combine them and you can add white and black to make a whole bunch of different colors. You don't necessarily have to go and buy the entire range. So what do we know at the end of all of this? Red is good, it's thin, so it needs a couple of coats, but the end result is not bad. The yellow veers towards olive drab or khaki a little bit, so it's great for that, but for an actual yellow contrast paint, you need to go with Citadel Contrast. Especially their new yellow, it looks fantastic. The blue I'm happy with, it just tilts towards indigo a little bit more than ultramarine. The green is perfect for me, and it's ideal for goblin skin, for orcs, green armor, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. If I ever get any more dipping inks, I'll let you know what they're like as well. But I'm happy with the results here today. Thanks so much for spending time with me. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you the next time. Take care. Bye-bye.